All right. Hello, everyone. And welcome to this community conversation with two amazing queens that we are going to introduce you to soon. First of all, we just want to say welcome to everybody who is joining us, and we also just want to send our love. I know right now we're all facing, difficult and challenging times. So wherever you are in this world, we want to send you all a lot of love and big virtual hugs. Next, we want to introduce you all to our wonderful panelists. In honor of Autism Awareness Month, today is the final day, and I couldn't think of anybody better to close out this month with than these two rock star super moms who we have today. We have Arionne, who's located in Chicago, and we have Adhanet, who is located in the Metro Atlanta area. So thank you both for being here with us today, for joining us. I'd love to pass it to each of you to just sort of do a quick introduction about yourselves and who you are.
I'm Arionne Nettles. I am a lecturer at Northwestern University here in Chicago. I have a son who has autism kind of as a result of another disease he has, a genetics disease called tuberous sclerosis. He's nonverbal. He's 13. He loves YouTube, loves music. That's his communication kind of preferred way to do stuff with folks. And we've been at it for a while. He was diagnosed kind of in the early intervention stage. So doctors knew pretty early on that he would likely have some type of developmental things happening, and so we were able to kind of really start trying to figure stuff out early, even though it still takes a long time and we're still figuring stuff out. But 13 years later, we still don't know everything, but he was diagnosed rather early.
Yeah, and Jack is so adorable. If you all follow Arionne on Instagram or Twitter or Facebook, you see her posts and her beautiful photos and memories and everything. So definitely give him a big hug for us. What about you, Adhanet?
Hi, thank you, Hannah. Thank you so much for inviting me. This is very important to make sure we're continuing to spread the awareness. So I really appreciate you for bringing this to our community. Like I said, my name is Zereabruk. I live in Georgia now for about a year. I am a mom of two warrior princesses, Grace and Faith. And I am a wife and a licensed professional counselor, and also I'm an autism mom. Grace is our 6 years old with the autism diagnosis, and she was diagnosed about three months shy of to her her third year. Her third birthday. But we'll talk about it more. But I noticed it really early, and she was receiving early intervention at about like 50 month, and she continued to get that early intervention until her diagnosis, and until she gets she go to school and get an IEP. So I'm also the owner of AZ Spectrum Transformation, which is a practice for consultation, coaching, and counseling for individuals with special needs and their family.
Again, thank you both for being here. I've seen videos of you and your beautiful girls, and they're just so precious. So you two and all that you do and share, we appreciate you, and we thank you all for being here. So I just want to know a couple things. So World Autism Awareness Month, that is a month dedicated to raising more awareness and celebrating people living with autism worldwide, from the youth to the elderly. And a definition of autism, for those of you who may not know about it, or maybe are just now learning about it, or if you have a loved one with it, then you may know. But a definition is a lifelong developmental condition that typically appears during early childhood and can impact the person's social skills, communication, relationships, and self-regulation. And research shows that about 1 in 160 children worldwide have autism, and about 1 in 54 children in the United States have autism. And Arionne and Adhanet, if you could maybe share more about the conditions that your child has, so we can get a better understanding, because this is a spectrum, and it really does vary based on family and the child or the individual. So if you could let us know more about your child and the conditions that they have with their autism.
So my son is developmentally delayed. So in addition to being nonverbal, meaning just that he can't really talk, he also has some type of some like motor skill development things happening where maybe he can't, grasp small things, or he can't use a fork without assistance, stuff like that. But he could feed himself like chicken nuggets without things that you don't, that you can kind of just grab with a looser or wider grasp. And so he, I would say probably at the developmental age, physically maybe somewhere like a little bit older than a toddler, but mentally there's like a lot that I am able to like pull out him sometimes. He's great with electronics, and so I think that's why, we laugh a lot at his facial expressions and the things that he does, because we're like, Jackson knows exactly what he's doing. He knows how to get his way, but he just sometimes can't communicate that. So a lot of times it is, giving you the side eye to let you know that he does not like what you are doing but he is like not verbal. So on that end, he's on a little bit more of the severe side of the spectrum. But again, he has like some other conditions too that could be contributing to that. And his main condition, tuberous sclerosis, causes these things called tubers in your brain. They're non-cancerous, but they're on your brain, so they affect your development and stuff. And that's what also has also possibly contributed to like the autism diagnosis.
Okay, thank you. And Adhanet, what about you?
So at this time, Gracie she, like I said, she's 6 at this time, and at this time she's considered high functioning a child with autism. But I was just listening to Arionne. When she was like 2 years old, when she first initially got the diagnosis, and before that, she was nonverbal, and her symptoms were very severe. And she did not speak fully. Like, she was not considered verbal until the age of 4.5. Even like at school and professionally or formally, she was not considered verbal until she was about 4.5. So she had a very severe diagnosis, level 3 autism, and she also had language diagnosis with that. I could see some ADHD as well, because kids with autism most of the time have some kind of ADHD with that. It's all under the umbrella. So you could see that a little bit even now. But so she was initially nonverbal, very severe, not able to understand your emotions, or not able to connect, or little connection with us, but especially emotionally. She did not have any connection with other people, whether it's at school or outside with her peers, with her sister. So it was very severe, but we did a lot of, like I said, the early intervention. It helped a lot, and doing a lot of things with her diet, a lot of other protocols and stuff helped. And she's now, like I said, verbal and high functioning at this time. But like you said, it's in a spectrum. Even that spectrum, when you meet one person with autism, that's it. You met one person with autism. There's a saying that. So if you meet 2 people with autism, it's not the same at all. And even within that spectrum, Gracie, the time she was diagnosed at this, and this time, that spectrum has shifted. So even with one individual, that spectrum changed. It's just amazing. And if you're lucky, it becomes positive. So even that spectrum changes within the individual. And so
I've heard a lot.
That's where we are now. Mm-hmm.
That's amazing. And I have read and watched, different interviews where people talk about progression and things that they're starting to see in their teenage years or later on in their adolescent years. So I think it is incredible to note that, right? That just because one thing is something when they're in diapers doesn't mean it's going to be the same case as they advance. Let me see if we have any questions coming in as well. To those of you who are tuning in, I want to let you all know that we're going to try and get to some questions at the end of this. So if you want to just drop your comments, we will be able to see them as well. If you just want to say hi, let us know where you're checking in from. That's welcome too. So definitely feel free to do that. So let me just check here to see about any comments that might be coming in. All right. We don't have any right now. So let's go ahead and keep on moving into the next questions. And Adhanet, let's jump it back to you because you did mention early intervention. I'd love for you to talk about that and maybe the importance of early intervention. And unfortunately, in our communities, within the Black community, immigrant community, you see a lot of times where people don't want to, really acknowledge autism or, give it any attention, maybe because they're scared or maybe because they're feeling other thoughts. So maybe if you could talk about just being brave in that journey of being able to pursue early intervention and the importance of it.
Okay, thank you. So most of the times, like you said, with the African American or Latinos, most of the time, the minorities, the children are not diagnosed, late diagnosed. Most of the time, it's either the teachers or somebody that, that notice and say something. I notice this a lot. And because I work in that field. And and that's why I do the awareness. But with my journey, because I was working with kids who had autism diagnosis, special needs, and their family, I knew that I was already, exposed to that population. And so I knew the symptoms. And so for my daughter, I knew them really early. Like once she was developing really, everybody has different stories, but she was developing really fast. And with our situation, when she was 1 year old, after 5 days, she got her immunization. And then I noticed that she was just declining. I saw regression. And I said, oh, maybe I'm spending too much time with other kids with this, like on the spectrum. Maybe I'm just seeing things, And she was our first daughter. So it was just a lot of confusion. But then I noticed more. It's like she was just regressing a lot. Even her smile was gone. Different things, the words that she used to say were gone. And even just like peekaboo, like, normal child, peekaboo, everything was gone and stuff. So I noticed and I said, okay, something is not right. Mm-hmm. I spoke with my husband and my family and they said, no, you don't see it. Everything is fine. We don't see anything, But anyway, around 15 months, I said, okay, I got to do something. I mean, it was sure. By 15 months, I said, okay, something is not right here. So I spoke with her doctor and her doctor said, it's too early. Pediatrician, which he was my pediatrician too. So when I was growing up, so he said, no, it's too early. Let's just wait. But for me, something in, my instinct said, okay, something is not right. And for me, I had the opportunity working with the Missouri First Steps before because I was helping other families. So I had that connection. So my first instinct was, okay, I need to call them. So I called them, gave them all the information. I got the you have to do release of information and all that stuff. I faxed that to the doctor and I made sure everything was like, I cannot wait. Time is something that you do not have. You're always running against time when you're dealing with a child with developmental delays. And so I knew that early intervention was the key. So I got them to come after a little bit less of the wait list. They came and assessed her. And she was able to get early intervention from Missouri First Steps from, I think, about like 16, 17 months to when she was 3 years old. And she went straight to school and got her IEP. She was not even diagnosed with autism. We had to wait until she was almost 3 because there's always a list. You cannot find, a child psychologist, special child psychologist to do that. So it took us a little bit, but we did not wait for that diagnosis. I always say, do not wait for that diagnosis. Go get help. because they don't have to have the diagnosis to get early intervention.
Yeah.
So that helped us a lot. And it was in home, so they would come in home, intensive in home therapy, occupational therapy. She had speech. She also had, just coming to help us out in the home. I was working at that time, still working at home. I was working at home. So I would, when I'm working at home, they would come and my husband would be with the kids, and they would also come and share whatever's, the information and the techniques with my husband, so we can all get together and help her. So that early intervention definitely is the key. And that's why we say don't wait for the diagnosis. Go to them. Even if you have anything telling you inside, especially a mom's instinct. Like I said, a mom's instinct, you will know. Even when your doctor is saying wait, even, your husband or your family might not, they might be in delays, in denial sometimes. Even parents, we get in denial too sometimes, but just making sure you get that early intervention, because they'll be able to come to do the assessment and say, okay, there is a delay here and there's something that we can do.
Absolutely.
Even because sometimes, especially in our community, we're afraid of that autism diagnosis, And I always say, don't focus on the diagnosis, focus on where the delay is on that kid and help him go from there.
Right. Absolutely. Absolutely. We should focus on those things. And these children are children. They're beautiful angels on this earth, and they deserve the help and the support that they need in whatever area. And for you, Arionne, I know you said that you found out way sooner, right? You found out in the earlier stage. Is that understanding correctly?
It was possibly because or at least back then, because now I have to remember again that Jackson is 13, so this would have been 10 years ago. They wouldn't give him an actual autism diagnosis until after he was 3, but we knew something was happening probably around maybe that same 15 to 18 month, because he wasn't trying to walk or anything. So that was kind of the first sign for me. And I was a really young mom, and I didn't have any other kids. I still don't. And so it's not I didn't have anything to compare them to, versus saying, hey, my other children started walking or trying to talk earlier. I didn't really know. The doctor just said, I tried to be at least on top of the check-ins, and they give you a form or they have a form where it'll be, has the child done this yet or made this noise yet? And we were really behind. So we knew it would be some type of developmental delay. By that point though, he had been having seizures. And so I was trying to kind of deal with the medical piece of things. And so when his development was slow, I was like, is that really a big deal? I didn't really know. But I soon found out, of course. And luckily for us, we were also in early intervention services, and that was really helpful. He ended up going to an early intervention preschool. We were living in Memphis at the time, and Labana Hospital had a preschool inside the hospital. So it was perfect because not only was he able to get all his therapies there, if he had a seizure, they knew what to do. He was literally in the hospital. So we were really lucky in that aspect. And then I think that just as the years have gone by, I had to really change my thinking. And that has been hard as someone who we didn't really have, or at least autism we don't have anybody in our family before Jackson who had autism. So I didn't know anybody who had kids. We knew nothing about autism. And so even recently, thinking about how do I change my mindset, right? Just because he thinks differently does not mean that he is not smart or that he doesn't, so even, just thinking through, maybe he can't communicate his frustrations the same way I can, but that doesn't mean that he doesn't notice the same things, and so I think even how now, the language, I think when I was younger, I used to always say, he's not like a normal kid. And I would just say it, not thinking, oh, because, normal kids do this or regular kids do this. And then it's no, you might, neurotypical children may do this. That just means their minds work in that more typical way. And your child doesn't. And so just thinking about it, it's not wrong. It's nothing wrong with that. or at least when I, if there's no health concerns, right? So I can just help him communicate in maybe ways that he feels more comfortable. So he has no desire to talk. So I stopped. So now, like, our speech is more about other ways that he may be able to communicate, since he's not interested in saying words, So maybe, trying to use like photos or pictures, or he learned how to say please in sign language, and he'll like when he really wants something, he'll like, please, like, give me something, I really want it, And so now we're working on more, and so like just even little things like that lessens his frustration. And so me trying to put myself in his shoes has been a lot helpful. But it's like you said earlier, in our community, we more so think like, oh, well, something's wrong with my kid, and thinking like that makes you not want to admit that they need help, because you think it's something wrong with them. Versus, I also know kids now who, because they had early intervention services, they're so high functioning that, they're not behind in school. They're not in any type, so it's kind of like just giving your kid the best boost that they need doesn't mean, that something's wrong with them. So just helping them how they need to be helped, and just being like, it's fine.
Wow. I definitely just learned a lot. Just even you saying, is it neuropsychological?
Yeah, neurotypical. Yeah, because I used to always say, yeah, regular kids, and then somebody would correct me and say, no, say neurotypical.
So I hope everybody's listening right now, because even how we communicate makes a difference. And I know Arionne, as a journalist, a lecturer, of course, that's something that she does. But I would love to talk further about that. What are ways that the community can be more supportive, even if it comes to just using, a better choice of words when we're having conversations around this? Or how can we better support, families that have children with autism, or even the child living with autism? I know that some people say they don't want to be seen as somebody who's just, like you said, like not a regular child, right? Like Jack is still a regular child, so is Gracie. And how do we make sure we're doing our part to really be present for you both and for your children?
I'll say that one thing is just like kind of being like present, because I think like doing stuff like this where there's not a fear of children who are different, allowing them to be and do the same things other kids do when it makes the most sense. Like sometimes we skip like birthday parties that might be loud, because I think that might be too much on his senses, right? But like, and then like, talking through with my friends and say, hey, we're gonna skip this because I think that this party might be too loud, and he has like he's sensitive to sound, and like even just explaining that, because then your family can better help you, because then maybe they won't do something where like they're popping balloons if they know that it'll make your kids scream,
Right. What about you, Adhanet?
I think, community, family, and community is very important in here, even though we don't get a lot of support. And sometimes in our community, it might be because we tend to hide it, or we get hurt a lot that we're afraid even to ask for help. And so for the community, first for me personally, as a mom, a parent with a child with special needs or autism, for me is like to educate the public, or to educate whoever that is going to be around my child. That's my responsibility. I take that as a responsibility, to educate whoever is going to be around my child, whether it's school, teachers or doctors or anybody, friends, anybody, neighbors. That's my responsibility. The community, church, because I noticed that in our community, especially in Black communities, or African American or Africa, or any immigrants, we don't tend to do that. We just hide things. We're afraid. But for me personally, it's just making sure that public, they're aware, family, they're aware. And from that, once I educate them, once I take that responsibility, then I would know who's going to be more accepting, because now that I told them how my child operates, how my child understands, and all that stuff. Then from there, my responsibility is, okay, who's going to be more supportive for my child and for me? Okay, are there some parents, due to fear and stuff like you said, they might be afraid to be around, other children with autism or any special kids with special needs because of that lack of knowledge. I think it's because of lack of knowledge or because of fear. So to burst that or to break that cycle, for me, what I do is making sure that they're aware that Gracie is, she might have some, some social, especially at this time, some social skills or whatever, but she's also a smart whip. She's very smart. She's very intelligent. She loves to be around kids. Sometimes our kids might not know how to socialize, but they actually love people. They're the most loving, people that I know, little people that I know, because they don't really have some, especially for my daughter, I think kids on the spectrum, they think, like in a black and white way. So they're not trying to trick you, or they don't have any other agenda. They're just like, this is who I am, and that's all. So it's actually very refreshing if you understand that, and that they can't even lie. They can't lie. So just knowing that, bringing that awareness to the community, and also from there, you will know who's, more aware and who's going to be supportive towards you. And then if they're not, if they continue to be ignorant or choose to be ignorant, then I'm like, okay, you're not for me. You're not for my daughter. I respect you where you are, and we're just going to keep our distance. So that's just the way I do. But it's very important for the public to know that these children and families are just like any other families, just with special needs. We deal with a lot of special needs, but and it could get exhausting. So sometimes for me, I don't deal a lot of like with, how can I say, like I focus my energy to help my daughter. I focus my energy to help other children instead of like with, I don't know, whatever, ignorance or whatever other people's, because you can't really control sometimes what other people do. Right. You can only control what you do. But by spreading that awareness is the best way to do.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So what I hear is, having that, spreading that awareness, being able to have those open conversations, like Arionne was saying, being able to create a space where you can be real friends, be real sisters, be real family members, where they should be able to, talk about these things in a way that feels comfortable, at least. And I know it takes two to tango, right? So on both ends, and every family is going to be different. Every friendship is going to be different. But I hope that anyone that's tuning in can listen to these examples at least, and maybe see how you can work them into your situation or lifestyle. So let's see how many questions we might have. If anybody has a question, feel free to drop it in. We'll try and get to as many as possible. Let's see. I don't see any right now.
I do see some questions. I don't know.
Oh, okay. I do see some questions too. I'm so sorry, guys. We have some internet challenges, but we are getting them fixed. So thanks for your patience, everybody. So we have some questions and some comments. Shout out to you ladies on behalf of Nehemiah Autism Center. Thank you, ladies. Thank you so much. Oh, they're in Ethiopia, in Addis Ababa. So we appreciate you. We have a question from Saba Legessa, who is my wonderful sister-in-law. She says, what signs should first-time parents be looking out for, and how, if you believe there is an issue, get reluctant family members to get on board with early intervention? I know earlier we spoke a little bit about early intervention, but maybe, if you could address the signs, and then working with family members who may be reluctant.
So for me, that's what I do every day. So the sign of autism or kids, you will know that even as early as even before they're 1, you will know some signs. If you educate yourself, you'll know these signs. But by 6 months, if the child is not smiling, not responding to your smiles, and to your peekaboos, there's some red flags there.
Mm.
Even like my daughter, she had all these development milestones. She hit them, but after 1 year old, like I said, I saw some regression. But so let's just say by 1 year old, if the child is not saying any one or two words, like not words, but even like hi, bye, baba, mama, or even if they can say, sometimes if you're in a home with a dual language, or English and something else, sometimes that might delay them. But if they're not smiling, if you say peekaboo and they're not responding, if you call their name and they're not responding, they're not looking at you. If you say look Jack, look Grace, and they're not responding, and they're just like staring at you like this, and just different things like that. And they tend to be on their own instead of playing with their siblings or whatever. They tend to line things up instead of playing with things. Like, for example, or like you give them a car or something to play with. Instead of playing with it, they will just like meddle with it, or just stare in one. Like most of the times if it's a car, they might just like stare on the one, like on one of the tire or something like that. Just they might focus only in one thing, maybe one toy all the time, but they might pick things and eat instead of, they might be picky eaters. Like, and the things that I'm saying, by the way, they were all present on Gracie when she was young. So they're not saying words, they're not looking at you, they're not pointing, or they're not responding to your point. They're not playing with other kids. They rather be by themselves than with family. Some of them, especially 80% with kids with autism, have some kind of GI issues. So even if they can't say my tummy hurts and stuff, you might see this constipation or different things. So you'll see some delays like this. And for me, it's like, if you have a concern, a little concern, say, something is not right. Something is not right. Take that instinct, especially if you're a mom. Follow that instinct. Follow that instinct and go. The first thing you should do would be go to the pediatrician and say, I have some concerns. That's what I did. But it is also possible that the pediatrician is going to say, and the kid is too early, just wait. Don't listen to that. Mm-hmm. If they say that, don't listen to that. Go Google or whatever, ask somebody else, or you can even say to the pediatrician, thank you very much. Is there an early intervention or something so I could just get help?
A specialist or something in that regard. Mm-hmm.
Well, to get a diagnosis from a specialist, you do need a referral from a pediatrician, especially depending what your insurance is. There's other that too, but most of the time, early intervention is free based on your income and stuff. But so you could just even Google it. What's the early intervention in your state? And say, hey, I do have this concern, and they will help you. They will contact the doctor and making sure they come and do the assessment. So don't listen to anybody who says, wait. Do not wait. Do not wait.
Don't wait. You hear Adhanet. So I would love to hear as well, Arionne, about your experiences. I know you all hit on, but maybe some additional signs maybe that people can look for. And then also if you have any stories about family members reluctant or anything you can share in that regard.
I think she hit on all the signs that we had. I think those were like the main ones, of course. So as far as maybe getting your family behind you, I would just add similarly about not waiting, like just do what you got to do. Your family will eventually come around, but especially in our communities, we get, oh, that baby is fine. There's nothing wrong with them. They are fine, right? And it's like, it's okay, again, because it's okay if they need help. That doesn't mean they're not fine. It just means that we can help, right? So why not, give your baby the best chance that that they can have. So if, let's say, you know, they're having trouble speaking and they get speech therapy, they could be totally fine in the year. You don't know. So I think that early intervention is just such a blessing that I think they say, and I could be wrong, but I think that the last time I checked the stats that communities of color, we're still not taking advantage fully of, you know, those early interventions. That again, a lot of times it's free. I didn't pay anything for early intervention. And it's like, why not? It can't hurt. It absolutely can't hurt. So I would just do it anyway. Even if your family is maybe not on board, figure out how you can do it without them. And then the thing is that like once you, because you know better than anybody else, and then once it starts to help, then everybody will be on board later. Like, oh yeah, I can tell that they're talking really good now. And you're like, okay. So just do what you got to do. I mean, I, of course, that I'm sure that's a different type of difference if let's say you and your partner aren't, you know, agreeing. But I would just still go with the argument that it does not hurt. It absolutely won't hurt. It can only help.
Absolutely. And I love how you hit on the side of being able to encourage, you know, kind of taking ownership, right? It's like, you just got to go. And then you got to show them, look, this is the improvement we saw from this program or this, you know. I also want to talk about it in another way as well. So what if you had a family member who maybe has a child who you see may have signs, and maybe that parent doesn't want to take their child? How do you start that conversation with that family member? Or actually, matter of fact, what would you tell someone that might be watching this who's afraid to go get that support or that help?
That's let me add to what we were saying earlier first, and then I will address that, because I like that. You know, this is not about you. We have to remember, this is not about you. This is not about the daddy. This is not about the mommy. This is about the child, and it's about the child's life for the rest of his life or her life. So put your emotions to, you know, this. It doesn't matter if you agree or not, but this is about the child. And you can't take to the doctor and they're not going to give them a autism. Sometimes it's like, and especially in our community, they think like, oh, they're just going to give them a diagnosis or something. I'm like, that's not how it works. That's not how it works. This is not about you. This is not about me. This is about the child. Mm-hmm. And if there's autism, they'll say there's autism. If there's not, there's not. There's nothing that you know, you can't fail on this. You know what I mean? Like this is something that you should go, like I said, early intervention is the key. And if this can make a difference in that life's child, I would go ahead and go. And that's what I did. Like I said, my husband and my family did not agree with me, but I followed my gut, and they're glad that I did. Mm-hmm. They're glad, and they were they became her biggest supporter from that day on until now. Her biggest supporter and helper. Somebody has to do it. Somebody has to leap and follow their gut. You know, so, and I see this a lot in our community. Either the dad says, oh, I don't see this, you know, or the mom will say like, what do you want to get? My child is fine, and stuff like that. So this is not about you. This is it's not about us.
Yeah, that's
so,
right.
And when you said that, what would you say? Especially at this time, because I do have a child with autism, I say, listen, I try to meet the parents where they are, but there's sometimes I'm like, listen, you do need to get help. So I try to meet them where they are. I'm like, so, you know, when Gracie was at this age, I used to see this and this. That helps a lot, because I do have, you know, I saw this and this. Can you just ask your pediatrician? Mm-hmm. You know, it could be nothing, but it's always good to. And like I said, it's not, people get stuck on the diagnosis or on that label. Mm-hmm. And that's why sometimes when people say, oh, Gracie's autism, I'm like, no, Gracie is not autism. Gracie is a person. She does have autism symptoms. Gracie is more than autism symptoms. She's smart. She's beautiful. She's so talented. Who happens to have autism symptoms also. So if you can educate them like this, I tell them the good things about Gracie and the things that she struggles, so they get more hope, saying, oh, even if my child like this, he could become like her. There is hope. Instead of like, oh my God, that diagnosis and it's lifetime, and they get into their head and they're like, oh, I can't face that. And meanwhile, that child needs early intervention. I'm like, you need to go. Most of the times, like I said, telling your story and that, hey, I understand it is hard. I'm a mom too. But if we do early intervention, do what we can and just leave the rest to God. God helps those who help themselves. So that's where I leave it.
Yes, yes. Wow. Woo. And you two have such powerful stories. So we're thankful that you two are being candid with us, transparent with us, because it starts with conversations like this, being able to hear directly from you two who have been through this journey and are going through this journey. So I would love to switch gears a little bit here. As we know, our world is facing this pandemic. We're all going through this struggle together. And as parents, I know you don't have an easy job at all. I have family members who are parents in my world, and I see how hard they work and how brave they are. And for you, how have you been able to adapt to this time? What advice or tips can you offer parents that have children with autism on ways they can keep them busy, keep them active, and how you can just kind of all work together through this? I know Arionne recently wrote an article that was super amazing. She has it up. It's on my Facebook page if you want to catch it, but it's called "Lockdown is Forcing Special Needs Parents to Get Creative." And that is on Zora Medium. So I would love for you to maybe share, just what's working for you in that regard. And then Adhanet uses her YouTube channel to provide programming and information to families around the world with children with special needs, and also adults as well. So I would love for you to talk about some of the experiments or activities that you've shown us on your YouTube channel. And also she features videos in Tigrinya, which is a native language spoken in both Eritrea and Ethiopia. So for our Tigrinya speaking people who may be tuning in, you can go and see her YouTube channels there. And she does them in English as well. So you can access both of them. But let's start with Arionne, and then we'll go to Adhanet.
I'll say that the probably what was the biggest takeaway from people I talked to for advice about what to do that we started to incorporate is that all changes don't have to be huge changes. So what 5-10 minute things can you incorporate throughout the day that can really help your child? So for us, we use mealtime because my son is always hungry. He always is hungry. And so if I want to teach him, the reason why we were able to teach him please earlier was a lot, I think, having to do with like his milk. If you want, do you want milk? You gotta say please. And so using more, okay, do you want more? And even now he can't do more, but he knows that I'm expecting him to try. So he'll grab my hand so that we can do hand over hand with more, so that he can learn what it means. And so he will communicate so that he get more food. So it is just figuring out what little 5-10 minute things we can do, so getting a routine that is manageable for you, because we are parents, but we're also not therapists and we're not teachers. So we can only do so much. A lot of us are still working from home. We have a lot of responsibilities. So I think that was my biggest takeaway, is that those changes can be very small. And if it's one activity you can do a day, do that one activity, or 2 activities, one in the morning, one at night, and don't overwhelm yourself, because you got to take good care of yourself so that you can take good care of them.
Absolutely. That is all very important. What about you, Adhanet?
So keeping that routine, like you said, especially for all kids, but special kids with special needs, it's very important to keep that routine for them, especially kids with autism, because they like routines. And with a lot of change, I mean, everything changed like in very short time. Just in a week, school was closed. Everything, therapists, access to everything was closed. So a lot of families with kids with special needs are, dealing with a lot of things because all the therapy, everything, the school, special needs, their IEP and all that stuff has stopped. So, and because our kids need that routine, they're like, and try to explain to a kid with autism, especially nonverbal, who's routine, try to explain to them, you can't go to school today because of Corona. You can't go to school. Like I said, because we're Gracie's at this time, we can explain to her, but we have to do it a couple times because she's used to waking up early, saying, Mommy, it's time to go. My bus is going to be here and all that stuff. She knows her routine. She knows her schedule. So she's like, the bus is not here. We're like, no school today. Remember Corona and stuff. And now she kept saying, Mommy, so no school today because of Corona.
Aww.
Okay. So what we try to, try to make sure we have that routine. And we had routine before, so that helped us a lot. We're always outside. So that really helped us, especially we intentionally make sure that we're outside 8 hours, even more than 8 hours, we're outside. If you've seen the pictures and the videos on YouTube, if the sun is out, we're outside. Our lunch is outside. We're doing picnicking because we also have the gardening. They're doing gardening with their dad. They're playing in the mud, dirt and all that stuff. And they're just doing different things outside because we do need that sun away from the media, away from the news, not only for them, but for us too. Yep. It's amazing what children can teach us also. They're just like in that moment, playing in that moment, being in that present. So I try to do that as well. Between appointments, I'm out on the sun with them and I come back. Whatever princess castle they have, whatever thing, I just take it outside and I'm like, here you go. Stay on the sun. So that's what they've been doing the whole time. We had their own garden, so they've been trying to take care of that. I mean, during this lockdown, they've been able to grow something and harvest now. It's like crazy. Yes, we're worried. We're following everything that they're telling us, but we're also making sure we're keeping that routine. And they also have their digital learning. That's another thing. And the top of being a parent, especially trying to do therapy and then digital learning. I'm like, oh my gosh, that is, I'm used to working from home because I've been doing this for over 7 years, but the digital learning came and stuff, and it's like, oh, wow, okay.
Yeah.
So, but day by day, little by little, we try to get in the routine. And once we got into the routine, they were okay. So keep routine for your children. And just try to take it day by day, one step at a time with them, and let your children teach you. I'm telling you, let your children teach you. Just it's just amazing. What I learned from my children is amazing. It's just about life and how simple they are. They just create their own happiness. It's just beautiful to me.
It is. It is. And just hearing your stories, I know just how much of a blessing these children are in our world. And I know that we have people tuning in right now. We just want to say shout out to everyone who's in this chat, listening and following. We have people all the way from Ethiopia to throughout the United States. We have someone in Philadelphia is in the building, of course, Atlanta, Chicago. We have another question that we got. We can try and answer it to the best of our ability, or or continue to have the conversation. But this was a question that we got. Thank you for everything you are doing. I'm on my last year rotation of Doctor of Pharmacy of Education. I have an important question that bothers me a lot. My question is that, what do you think causes autism? Do you believe that vaccination causes autism? Thank you. I recently read at a credible article that that vaccinations don't cause autism. I would love for you all to share what your perspectives are on it. But I recently read that it was a credible source. I can't remember what source it was, but I'd love to hear what you all have to say.
Do you want to go? You can go, or I can go.
You can go ahead.
Yeah. Okay, so depending who you ask, you'll get different answer in here. And I don't go, this is not even a place, a time, but for me, can you say vaccines cause autism? You cannot say 100%. Mm-hmm. But in some ways, because at this time, there's no one thing that causes autism. There's different things. whether it's environment, whether it's, if there was any infection or anything when the mom was pregnant. They also say parents' age and all that stuff. Family, they also say family history and stuff. When it comes to family history, I don't agree with that, because especially at this time, the rate of autism, because family and DNA does not change. Whether you're in Africa, whether in the United States or in Mars, your family gene will be the same. So how is it? You have to ask yourself, how's it when I was in Africa, I didn't know anybody that had autism. And now every corner I see, or wherever I go, there's autism everywhere. How's that? So you have to ask yourself that. And some people will say, well, that's because we have a better way of diagnosing it. And I say, really? You cannot hide autism. You cannot hide the symptoms of autism. Even if you don't know what autism is, you cannot hide the symptoms of autism. Even parents try to hide it with their hair or stuff. You cannot. We will see it if the child is delayed. We will see it if the child is nonverbal.
Yeah.
You will see it. It's nothing that you can hide. So I would say it depends who you ask, but you cannot say 100% that vaccines cause autism, because they're different things. But are they a factor? Yeah, they are, because every body is unique. God created us uniquely, and for me, the one size fits all does not work for everybody, because everybody's gene, that family gene, is different. Mm-hmm. So when the child gets the vaccine, it might react differently. Just like if you give somebody if you give the same antibiotics to the three of us, our body will react to it differently, because we're made differently. So it's, so you have to know all this stuff, but you can't blame everything on vaccine, because because if you do that too, okay, both my children were vaccinated. One child got diagnosed with autism and the other didn't. Mm. So you have to know this. But for me, I educate myself on these, and I've done, especially since 2017, I've done a lot of research after I got, I got affected with this. So I just tell people, do the research and do whatever makes you peace. Do the research and make educated choice, and just have peace with it. That's all.
Yeah, I know that the research continues, right? I mean, there's still so much to be figured out with this. It's such a broad, complex, question to sort of like come to a direct answer. So yeah, I think you're going to see so many different theories, so many different, versions, but I think it's best to do your research and kind of stick with what you feel works for you and your family, and understand that there's still a lot of figuring out to go. That's why it's important to raise awareness. That's why all these research institutions put so much effort into pursuing research and in this matter. So thank you for that question, and thank you for answering. I know we have a few minutes left, so just a couple more questions. I could sit here and ask you guys 1,000 more questions, but again, this is just, it's Autism Awareness Month for those of you who are joining us, and we wanted to raise awareness, offer some advice, and share encouragement. And on that note of advice, I'd love for you both to share maybe a couple or a few resources that people can really tap into. And I know, Arionne, you were saying how you really didn't have to pay for early intervention. Maybe if you could explain why that is, because I feel like when you think of all these hospital visits and bills and it sounds like a lot, but from what we understand, there's a lot of programming that is funded and provided. So I'd love to hear from you both on that regard.
Yes. So, and of course, every state is different, the laws around that. But do I have feedback? Do I have echo?
No, you're good.
Okay. So, a lot of times you can kind of think of early intervention the same way you think of public schools. So in early intervention, especially if you have a referral from your pediatrician like we did, they referred us to the early intervention program that's funded through the state. And we were able to receive services through that. They kind of create, if you have a school-age child, you'll have a IEP and individualized education plan. But if you're in early intervention, it's like a individual family services plan. So it's kind of like an IEP, but it's for early intervention. And that's where they'll outline that your child could use, like usually, I think OT, occupational therapy, speech therapy, and physical therapy are like the three that I hear about the most that are usually funded through that. And so sometimes you'll get it in a center, or you have it somebody come to your house. And so it's just a service but it's for early intervention is for children under the age of 3. Once they're 3, it's kind of usually assumed that they're old enough to go to public school and they can get those 3 services there instead of through early intervention.
Okay, so just to be clear, so where would someone go? Would they need to be diagnosed and then they would tap into those services?
You may, depending on your, ideally your pediatrician will be able to do that referral. But if, of course, you're having issues and your pediatrician is not seeing that as a problem, you can probably try to contact it directly but they have to test your child to say, okay, this child could use it. So basically, this is you're just trying to get the testing done, and maybe your doctor could help skip some of those steps. But
okay, well, that's important. So the testing is really, really important, and I know it takes courage to get out there and do that. So these ladies have shown us that you do it and you can see positive results. So what about you at Adhanet? What about some direct resources people can turn to that can help?
So having a child with autism is not easy. Financially, it is not. Like I said, at this time, I tell people with the money that we've spent for Gracie, we could easily buy money, just cash. We could buy a house. So you do spend a lot of money. And we have sometimes where the difference is, first of all, if you're both working, because it depends on your income. It depends on your income. So, for example, Gracie does not get anything we don't get any kind of help because it depends on your income and all that stuff, even though your child has the diagnosis. So you might need to hire a lawyer and all that stuff to help you guys on this because it's not based on the diagnosis. It's also based on it's mainly on income based to help. But at that early intervention, when they get that early intervention early on, it's free. Mostly in most states, it's free. And if you have some income, they might charge you a little bit, but it's mostly free. So I always say until the age of 3, and then from there they will be transitioning for IEP. If they go to public school, usually it's free, so you can go that. But when you're dealing with a child with special needs, there's a lot of things that you do. A lot of treatments, a lot of protocols, a lot of things. Sometimes, most of the time, especially if it's not evidence-based, insurance companies don't pay. Especially most of the things that what we have done for Grace, most of the protocols, most of the treatments, insurance companies does not pay for it. So we're having to pay from out of our pocket, or there's $6,000 for 3 months, different treatments from our pocket, not from government funded or not from insurances. Because if it's and I used to work for insurance, so I know how insurance work and all that stuff. If it is not if it's not deemed evidence based, you cannot get any insurance to pay for it. So if there's any alternative way that you want to do, insurance is not going to pay for it. Wow. So it all depends. Yeah. So when you see a family with special needs or autism, they're spending a lot of money. And depending if you have sometimes, and now it's getting better. Like for ABA, speech and OT, your insurance company can pay for it. Sometimes it could be limited. So there's a lot of things that we don't just only deal with the kids. Sometimes we have to fight for the kids at school to get the IEP or to make sure they're actually doing what the IEP says. So the parents are always fighting. Sometimes we're fighting with the insurance company to make sure that we're actually, what we're spending for, we're spending money for the insurance we're paying, but they don't pay for it. So you're always fighting. And sometimes you're always fighting the stigma. So there's a lot of fight that we do. So, but it's always good to know the resources around. Like I said, there are, especially if your income is, considered, and whatever, income they consider as low or something, you would get some kind of help. Mostly, like for example, when we were in Missouri, Grace used to get a respite, which is nice to get a respite. That means for somebody to come help for a couple hours, or for her to go somewhere like in a daycare or a respite place. But depending, for me, I was not comfortable to send my child anywhere because she was nonverbal, and I don't feel comfortable sending my child elsewhere. But they were able to have one of our family members, allowed one of our family members to do that. I found out he actually cannot do that in Georgia, so we're like, okay, no, thank you. So, and she's verbal, so you have to go with the child too. She's verbal, she's more aware, she's able to tell you if somebody is hurting her or something. So, if we ever get that, we might use that. But so there's, like I said, there's so many fights that autism parents, that's why they're called warriors. Autism parents are warriors because they're always fighting the system. We're always fighting with the schools and stuff. So, but there's always help. I always say, God says, ask and you shall receive. Don't just stop. Just because one door closed, don't just say, okay, that's it. Keep knocking, keep asking until you get the things that you need to help your child. So it's a fight that we do daily. It's not, and we talk about the autism awareness in April, but for us, autism is a daily thing that we go through. So we're always aware. Every day we're aware. So
you are. It's a 365-day awareness. So we understand that, and I thank you both for sharing those resources. And to anybody who's watching, hopefully that was helpful. And also, a good place to start is looking into your local community. I guarantee you, if you are living in Indianapolis or Ohio or Iowa, and you type in your city or your county and you type in autism resources, I guarantee you will find some sort of access or some sort of programs out there. So I definitely encourage you to be an advocate for yourself and for your family. And I want to just wrap it up with one final question, and then we'll get your contact info after. But you mentioned, Adhanet, that you all are warriors, and you truly are warriors. And what is your favorite part of being a warrior to your child, to your children? We'll start with Adhanet. We'll take it back to you. Your favorite part of being a mother to your children, and then we'll take it to Arionne.
I think for me is, especially being in this autism world, it makes you more human. It makes you more humble. It makes you appreciate life. I mean, it's just like, and because you're fighting every day, you understand other people's, you have some empathy towards other people. Because most of the times, the fights that we're fighting, nobody sees it. So you notice that, you know what, there's other people suffering too, nobody sees.
Yep.
So it makes you wake up, it makes you conscious, and it makes you want to help other people too. Definitely, I went to the health or the counseling profession to help people. But for me, having Gracie in our life also made me more wanting to help people, especially people in our shoes, people that are dealing with our kind of, special needs or our kind of situation. So for me, I mean, Gracie really, she's a blessing in disguise, not only for our family, but for a lot of families around the world. Because it's because of her that I literally made a change of, my, I started helping families with special needs. Because I was helping them before. I was doing counseling and all that stuff years before, but I was able to focus and help people that are hurting like us. I was helping because I understand how it feels. I understand, the dark times, So we chose to be a light for them, to be hope for them. That and because of Gracie's stories, a lot of people everywhere, all around the world, are getting help and getting the same treatments that she has gotten. The same, most of them, you know. If you already know, we have the support group and our family life with autism and developmental delays and Facebook. Um, there's families from all over the world there, just like us, wanting to help their children. And we do bi-monthly free, free support groups for families. Usually those family, the support group is for Tigrinya speakers, because I noticed that in our family, in our community, nobody was speaking about it. But once I started speaking about it in the media, people were like, oh my God, I can speak about it now. Oh my God, help me. Instead of hiding it, help me. I need help. Instead of thinking about, oh, what this person is going to say and what that person, I'm like, forget the person. Let's focus on the child and your family. So hundreds of families are able to get help everywhere.
That's awesome.
And they're able to tell me their kids are talking now, their kids are speaking, their kids are showing progress. So for me, Gracie's situation, even though it was hard and it is still hard, but it's a blessing in disguise, because if it wasn't for Gracie's situation, I would not be helping the families that I'm helping right now.
Wow, what a blessing that you are here being a light in this world through all that you do. I encourage you to keep that going. Thank you for what you do. And to Arionne, what about you? What is the most rewarding part of being a mother to your beautiful Jackson?
I'll just say because I was the only child, I was probably really well, I have a little brother, but we're really far apart. So I grew up kind of as an only child. And so I think I was really selfish. And so like having him has really made me a lot more selfless and a lot more patient, because I can't expect him to get stuff on the first try. I have to be patient and I have to be okay with that. And so I think like that's probably the biggest gift that he's given me, is like patience and just like, being a better person, because that patience can, apply to so many things in the world. So for sure.
Yes, absolutely. And now you have many students children that you work with at school. Now that she's a lecturer at Northwestern University, she teaches a lot of students. And I forgot to mention this, but Arionne and I did go to school together at Northwestern University, and that's where she just became an instant sister. And I'm just blessed to know you. And Adhanet and I met in Atlanta, in the Atlanta community. She moved here from California.
From St. Louis, Missouri.
St. Louis, Missouri. Sorry, I'm thinking of sorry, Isaias and them. But yeah, I know you all came from Missouri, and we just hit it off. We just all this energy. But how can people keep in touch with you both to keep up with the amazing work that you do and follow along your journeys?
I'm everywhere at Arionne Nettles. Keep it simple.
Yep.
So for me, they can go to my website at Adhanet.com. That's ADHANET.com. And that's where people can make an appointment for consultation, counseling, and coaching. They also have access to Tigrinya resources, Tigrinya information about autism and how they can help their child and different things. And I'm also on YouTube, HannahJoyTV, HannahJoyTV, and I'm also on Instagram at Zereabruk and Facebook at HannahJoyTV. So
perfect. So easy ways for you all to stay connected. I know we got a lot of comments. This was in English for everybody who tuned in. And we had, I know that some people, like I said, if you want to Tigrinya, we have a sister here who can offer that as well. There are hiring services available on other sites and programs. So we thank you all for tuning in. Just to show you all what some people are saying. Somebody said, thank you for taking time spreading autism awareness. Thank you so much, Bayana. Abigail said, thank you for encouraging our community about autism. It's very important for many families in our community to learn more information about it. Thank you. We had some people from London in the building. We just had some other comments saying thank you all so much. So I just want you to see how how much this helped, a lot of people that tuned in, and we appreciate you all. And, happy Autism Awareness Month, happy Autism Awareness Year. Like Adhanet said, this is a year thing. And we appreciate you all, and we thank you all for being here with us.
Thank you. Thank you so much for spreading the awareness. Sharing is caring, and this is one way we do it. So I thank you. I appreciate you for doing this for us.
And stay strong and stay safe during these days. We love you all. To everybody tuning in, thank y'all for tuning in. Goodbye, everybody.
Bye-bye.